Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I'm your host, Joe Jackson. Alongside me, as always, is my co-host, Kraig Bowers. Today, going to preview day two of Purdue's tournament in the Bahamas. They will be playing either Wake Forest or Texas Tech. That will be on Friday, November 21st. Championship games at 9:30, consolation games at 7 o'clock. That'll depend on what they do against Memphis. We do have a Memphis preview up, so definitely go check that out as well on the YouTube channel. And that game against Memphis is 6 o'clock on Thursday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS Sports Network. Um, yeah, go check out that preview. We'll be live after the game. Kraig will be there in person. So make sure to follow him and Boys and Stands on Twitter for coverage from Bahamas. Kraig, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm excited that this time, well, not quite this time tomorrow, about 26 hours from now, I will have feet on the ground in the Bahamas, high of 78, low of 75 every single day that I'm down there, Joe. I'm excited and looking forward to it. What I'm not excited about is I have a 6 a.m. flight tomorrow because we're
Hmm.
flying in same day. So I'm waking up about 2:30 a.m. to head towards the airport. So if I join you guys post game, if I'm a little drowsy, I'm going to apologize in advance for that. But excited just to see these matchups and really dug into them over the last few days. If you guys haven't already seen, Casey Bartley joined us for the Memphis preview show, and we posted that yesterday sometime, I think, or maybe the day before. It all kind of runs together at this point, as many games as we've been pumping out here lately. But Joe couldn't join, so Casey jumped in. Appreciate Casey doing that, and hopefully you guys have had a chance to watch it. If not, certainly go over and do that. I think this tournament gets exciting to me and the potential matchup that we could see. And we're going to highlight the first team, which is the one that we would expect to see in the championship game. Although, as I watched Texas Tech and Wake Forest, I thought, man, these two teams might match up fairly well. And Wake Forest might make that more interesting than people from the outside might think going into it. But Texas Tech comes in at 3-1, ranked 15th in the AP poll. They did lose to Illinois. I'm sure lots of our listeners probably watched that Big Ten matchup with Illinois going against Texas Tech and see that. Grant McCaslin is their coach, comes in at 54-21, has taken Texas Tech to the tournament both years that he's been there. They were picked in the preseason Big 12 poll to finish third. They do return some minutes in scoring, 26.7 minutes, 32.7 scoring percentage from last year's team. So still nothing relatively close to what Purdue brings back. But there is some stability there, and especially with JT Toppin and Christian Anderson, which we'll get into here in a little bit. Because we're trying to keep these shorter, this is going to be a little bit briefer overview of both teams, guys, because we're covering two teams in one preview show, and still don't want this to be extremely long. So not going to go through the full KenPom stats like I might usually. The one thing that stood out to me, Joe, is 2-point distribution, 3-point distribution from Texas Tech's defense. Feels like this is a team that wants to try to force people off the 3-point line and make them to take 2-point shots. We can get into the defense here in a second, but was there anything else from their analytics that jumped out to you that this team does extremely well or does extremely poorly?
Yeah, I think we'll talk about, like you said, the defense in a second. They do force a lot of mid-range shots, kind of the analytical model. Don't help a lot off perimeter, playing drop coverage. The other thing, they're really good on the offensive glass, 26 in the country, rebounding 40% of their misses. Now Purdue is number one or number two in the country, number 16 in the country in offensive rebounding, but they're 179 in defensive rebounding percentage. So the defensive rebounding has been better since TKR has returned. I think we would all kind of say there's still work to be done, and if Purdue plays Texas Tech, like that is something that they'll definitely have to shore up. But that's the other big thing I would say that just immediately pops out in terms of some of the analytics and stats.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing might want to highlight just a little bit is because of the fact that we've played so many high tempo teams, and Wake Forest is going to be similar, is this team is much closer to our style in terms of tempo. To be clear, I collected these KenPom stats yesterday before last night's game. So if anybody's going to fact check me and say they're not 308, they're 306, I'll live with it. Okay. But going into last night's games, Texas Tech was 308th in the country in tempo. I didn't realize until I'm just looking now to their point distribution themselves. They're 26th in 3 points, 3 point distribution, and 305th in 2 point distribution. With Toppin, I figured that 2 point number would be higher than what it is.
Yeah, I mean they got guards that can shoot, and really Toppin's going to dominate the interior, but the rest there's only one or two other players that really go inside consistently, and then they have quite a few shooters on the roster.
Yeah. Will be a change after seeing some of these high tempo teams to see a team kind of move a little bit closer to our pace. As we look at this team, just big picture, Joe, real quick rundown. We already alluded to it, but what does this team want to do defensively?
Yeah, they want to not provide help off the perimeter if they don't have to on drives. They're going to mainly play drop coverage and try to force mid-range shots and just basically live with teams taking those. Right now, they have one of they're forcing teams to take like 20% of their shots from the mid-range outside of the paint. That's one of the highest rates in the entire country. Now against Illinois, because they kind of had no answer at some point defensively, you saw some different coverages that they threw in, like they can high hedge if they want. They can switch with Toppin if they need to. But if it's up to them, it's that drop coverage, force mid range shots, stick with your man, and then just try to go rebound the ball. I mentioned that they're a good offensive rebounding team, and Purdue is been okay at best defensive rebounding, and Texas Tech's kind of that way too. They're a great offensive rebounding team. They're an okay at best defensive rebounding team. So Purdue should have some chances to get second chance looks too.
Yeah. And one of the things that jumped out to me, just especially watching that Illinois game, this team doesn't have much interior size. I mean, their starting lineup, Toppin is the tallest player out there at 6'9". They do have a couple of 6'11" guys they can bring in off the bench. I not necessarily the biggest, bulkiest 6'11" guys.
Yeah.
It would seem like, and I I was surprised Illinois' interior didn't score more than they did. Um, I think between what Merkovich and Ivicic, they had like 22 points maybe between the two of them. But it felt like watching this game that our two bigs ought to be able to really pick on their defense down low.
Yeah, I would think so, especially the size advantage that TKR should have against presumably Lawan Watts is going to guard him. I would guess, and he's 6'6", 225. Now he's a sturdy 6'6", but still he's closer to a true wing than a forward, and that feels like a spot where like TKR can get going unless they decide to double, and then Clough's going to have his hands full against Toppin. Don't get me wrong. Toppin is one of the
Yeah.
best players in the entire country. So it's not as simple as, oh, he's bigger, he's going to be good. But there is some opportunity with him with some size and Jacobson as well to, maybe grab some couple more rebounds than they normally would, or, get a couple more deflections near the rim and just different things like that to be able to really contribute.
And as we kind of switch to them on the offensive side of the ball, um, in terms of what they want to do, obviously the name that pops out to everybody is JT Toppin because he is in the conversation for National Player of the Year. Before the season started, I think Braden Smith was number one in betting odds and Toppin was number two. That's changed a little bit with some of the freshman performances as the season started. But Christian Anderson is the engine that makes this go. If anybody watched FIBA this summer, he really, really showed out there. 6'3", 178-pound sophomore that comes in averaging 19.5 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 9 assists, 39% from three. Really, really good facilitator. Not the biggest built guy. He's kind of like, he almost reminds me like Eric Hunter in his build.
Mm.
Um, you know what I mean? Like kind of a
Yeah.
more slender, not a stocky built point guard. And then on the other side of that, I already mentioned Toppin. So let's highlight him. 6'9", 230-pound junior. Comes in averaging 24.3 points, 11.7 rebounds, and 3 assists. An athletic 6'9" kind of tweener big that can score at all three levels. He can shoot threes, even though it's not super high volume. He can take the ball off the dribble. He can do a true post up. those are the two guys, obviously, that jump out to me. You see them in pick and roll. What does Texas Tech want to do offensively?
Yeah, mix of pick and roll for Anderson for sure. That's going to be a heavy dose, and out of that, getting Toppin on the roll. If we're calling TKR the best short roller in the country, Toppin is not far behind, as being one of the best, if not just the best short roller in the country. So that is something that Purdue is going to definitely have to be aware of. They're going to definitely mix in post ups for Toppin. It's going to run. The offense runs a lot through those two. They're taking when they're on the floor, they're taking a combined 55% of Texas Tech shots. It's a lot of shots. It's going to funnel through those two a ton. And as you said, Anderson's the facilitator. Toppin can facilitate from the post, and especially if Purdue's going to double him, like I think he's capable, but you still kind of take your chances with him there. And that's like I don't want to oversimplify the offense, but like that is what a lot of it is just get those two guys the ball, and then surround them with shooters and guys that can be able to just kind of knock down open catch and shoot threes.
Yeah, and two really high level players. Obviously, one that should be in the hunt for first team All American. Christian Anderson to me is a guy that could end up making the All Big 12 team, at least second team, but potentially first team. And similar to Purdue in some ways, like I don't think this Texas Tech team is very deep. Okay, I don't think they're
No.
near as deep as Purdue, and I don't think their supporting cast around their stars are as good. But similar to Purdue, it's their stars that drive this team. Um, as we look at defending Toppin, we expect Purdue to double him anytime he gets the ball in the post like they normally would.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if they didn't.
Yeah. Anything else from a defensive standpoint that you see Purdue really needing to do? We expect CJ Cox on Anderson to try to jam him and kind of slow this offense down. Anything else stand out in terms of what you want to highlight, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be aware of top end really at all points. Obviously, in post ups, that means the defensive rotations have to be on point if they are going to be doubling. You can't just let him get a free kick out because, like I said, there are going to be shooters surrounding him on the floor. Um, Continuing to just kind of keep improving on ball pressure, especially against Anderson, and then just right, Purdue's defense right now is built to allow some 3-point attempts, and Texas Tech is going to be willing to take them. And so that's going to happen, but it's more of just trying to make them a little bit more difficult when possible, right? Closing out with high hands, making sure that the rotations are good and are quick and efficient. That feels like the big thing, and then grabbing the defensive rebound, like right. Purdue can get away with giving second chance looks to to Oakland and Evansville and Akron a bit, just because at some point their talent's able to overwhelm. You can't quite do that against Texas Tech. Like this is you cannot let them get multiple looks because if you do, Texas Tech is going to take advantage.
Yeah. And to highlight a couple, you mentioned the fact that they're going to be willing to take threes. Highlight a couple of the guys that are shooting the ball really well from out there. Donovan Outwell comes in averaging 15.3 points and shooting basically 49% from three. Seems more of like a guy who wants to shoot outside and a catch and shoot 3-point shooter. And then Tyree Bryan, or I'm sorry, is it Lawan Watts?
I think so. I don't actually
Okay,
know
I
for
think
sure.
so too. Lawan Watts, 6'6", 225-pound junior, comes in averaging 14 points and 6.3 rebounds. On the year coming in, he is shooting 50% from three, although on really low volume, right? Altwell shoots 9.3 threes a game. And Watts is much more lower volume, but still shooting the ball relatively well from out there. I guess what stands out to you about those two, and then their other starter, Tyree Bryan, who seems to me like more of a physical body, good rebounder, guy that can take it off the bounce a little bit more.
Yeah, Atwell is going to fire from three. He has taken 37 threes. He has taken 1 2-point attempts throughout the 4 games this season. He is going to fire them up from three. Doesn't really pass like to create like shooter. He is a shooter. A lawyer, I
Yeah.
presume, will be on him, and lawyer will have to know exactly where he's at all times. Watts is fun. Like he's a guy that, right transfers from Washington State, has shot the ball well on lower volume. Like I said, a stocky 6'6", where he's got some decent athleticism and just solid size at 6'6". Can get downhill, can convert at the rim. Little bit of a glue guy too in terms of like being able to apply some or some pressure defensively, being able to rebound the ball pretty well. So just kind of does a variety of things, I think, pretty well for this Texas Tech team. And then yeah, Tyree Bryan, not as high usage, can shoot. Like he's a 41% career 3-point shooter. So like he is somebody that Purdue also has to be aware of. Not too much of a facilitator, and yeah, just a little bit more physical at his size.
Yeah. And then as we talked about this team not being real deep, in that Illinois game, they only played 8 guys, and only one guy off the bench got into double figure minutes. I'm just gonna be, for the sake of time, because we're trying to keep this thing moving along, I'm just gonna let you highlight whoever you would like off of that bench roll.
Yeah, Jalen Petty's been kind of the backup point guard. Quick hands, has not shot the ball well at all this season, and he is a freshman, so it may just take some time for him to be able to adjust. More of a perimeter shooter, but quick hands, quick body. He's the kind of backup guard. Nolan Groves is their backup wing. Started the first 2 games, hasn't played really at all the last 2. More of a shooter, hasn't shot the ball well. He is also a freshman, kind of an undersized forward. Is pretty much what I wonder if I'm looking at his KenPom page now, and it says he's from Minnesota, and I'm wondering if his brother is Grayson Groves on Minnesota's Golden Gophers. Um, but those are really the only 2 that they've played off the bench. Mariel Aquintock, also a freshman. Their 3 guys off the bench are freshmen. He's the backup center. Didn't play the last game, played 6 minutes against Illinois. Can be a good rim protector potentially. Can probably be a good rebounder. He's a big freshman, being really sped up with the ball. So if he does touch it, you can force turnovers. Not going to be too much of an offensive threat.
Yeah. Who'd you say the kid's name on Minnesota was?
Grayson Groves
Don't think
or
so then.
Grayson Grove.
From
No,
from
no.
a from a real quick look, it says he has 2 siblings, and neither of them are named Grayson. So
Oh, one of them. No, one of them's last name is Grove, and one of them's last name is Groves. But they're both from Minnesota.
okay,
So there you
all
go.
right. We're not going to give predictions on the 2 potential matchups. We'll just talk about some keys to the game. I'm going to go first here, and Texas Tech really has played 1 game against a high level competitor in Illinois. Illinois shot 59.5% from twos against them in that game. And I thought Wake Forest at times struggled to rebound a little bit against them. And for me, um, I realize that the KenPom numbers may not lean into this as heavy as what I think the advantage should be, but I just feel like the size down low between TKR and Clough and Jacobson should really play into Purdue's hand. I think Purdue needs to punish them down low on the offensive end, and think they need to punish them on the glass to win this game.
Yeah, I think that's definitely key number one is that. I'll throw in for mine just Braden Smith, like, and I feel like we could just say these 2 keys for every game. Hey, the bigs be good and Braden Smith be good, and like Purdue's probably going to win a lot of games with that formula. But no, with how Texas Tech is going to defend, right? Braden should get plenty of looks in that mid range. So just him being Braden, being able to knock down some shots, probably more of an Alabama type, maybe not that big of an output, but that type of a game from him where it's a little bit more scoring, a little bit. Let me just go create my own shots, and help the team that way. And then I guess also bonus is just like trying to stay in front of the guards, specifically Christian Anderson better. Like that would be a bonus one.
Yeah, and I think with Toppin, as we look at attacking him defensively, to me, he's one of those guys you go into the game saying we need to slow him down and make things more difficult. Like Toppin is going to get his points, but if you can make
Yeah.
it more difficult on him, make him more inefficient, that's a key to winning the game. And outside of that, I guess the last thing I would say is if this is another one of those games where it's like Biggs and Braden in mid range, similar to Alabama, is everybody else on the court from a guard wing standpoint, making sure they're still impacting the game in positive ways, even if they aren't heavily involved in shooting. Like how else can be impactful defensively, be impactful rebounding, all of those sort of things out there on the court. I'm ready to move on to Wake Forest if you are, unless you have any last things you want to say.
Um, the only thing I gotta say is I do hope Purdue gets Texas Tech because I think it would be a
Me
really,
too.
really fun game.
This was the game. I don't know if you remember in our like schedule
Oh yeah.
preview show that I said I was most excited about just because I love to see stars and I'm going to be able to sit in media seats in that small ballroom and be really, really close to the court, watching JT Toppin and Christian Anderson and Braden Smith and TKR and everybody else who's a star on Purdue's team. So I'm just excited to watch high level play from those guys. I know I said we weren't going to give predictions. I still feel like that's a team Purdue should be able to handle. Um, I just feel like they should be able to handle them. Like
Yeah.
I don't walk into that game feeling scared in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think that's very fair.
Okay. All right, let's move on to Wake Forest. Come in 3-1 with a loss to Michigan, another team that a lot of viewers probably watched. If you follow the Big Ten in general, they were in a really, really tight game with Michigan, a game that was not expected to be near that tight. I can't talk this morning, Joe. And they have climbed up in the Ken Palm rankings from the beginning of the year. Because I want to say when I first looked early in the year, they were in the 80s or maybe even low 90s. And
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but have climbed all the way up to 52 off the back of 3 wins and a strong performance against Michigan. They return 27% of their minutes, 24% of their scoring. They're coached by Steve Forbes. This to me, like looking through their Ken Palm numbers, Joe, was I was like, well, what do they do well? And then I was like, well, what do they do bad? I mean, there just wasn't a bunch of outliers one way or the other of, man, they're really, really good at this or they're really not good at this. Just seemed like a team that's pretty okay at most things, but they do come in 69th in Ken Palm offense, 33rd in Ken Palm defense. So that number jumps out. Their steal percentage, turnover percentages are pretty high on the defensive side of the ball, but nothing that's just absolutely exceptional, but also nothing that's really, really detrimental on this team. I thought they played really gritty in that Michigan game. I don't necessarily feel like there's a ton of just pure shooters, but it feels like they have bucket getters that can make difficult shots at certain times and key moments. I guess what was your read? I know you watched that game too. What was your just initial read of this Wake Forest team?
Yeah, I think the gritty kind of just grind games out. Like that's how they would have to beat, Texas Tech or Purdue if they do end up playing Purdue is just kind of controlling the game their pace. They want to play up tempo, especially offensively, want to be physical defensively, force turnovers because their interior defense is not very good at all. But they do a good job of having athleticism. They have good positional size at like the
Mm.
guards and the wings. Now they are going to be undersized in the front court, but they're just dudes that can go hoop and we'll see kind of where this team eventually ends up. But they're a team that definitely can't just be overlooked.
All right. And you're right. I missed that as I was glancing down through it. 2 point percentage defensively going into last night's game was 286 in the country at 57.4%. And if you watch that Michigan game, Mara actually absolutely ate them alive. I was shocked they didn't double him. If they don't double TKR, if they happen to catch Purdue in that game, it is going to be a bloodbath down low. Um, so you already mentioned what they want to do defensively, right? Really kind of get up into you, pressure the ball, try to force turnovers. Anything else that stands out about them defensively, other than the fact that they're like post and rim defense has been not good so far.
Yes, they're going to be a team that hedges a lot, switch defensively. They want to stay in front, be aggressive in passing lanes. They are going to double the post most likely from the top of the key. If they are going to double, I would just be shocked if they didn't against TKR. Very athletic, and just a team that's right. Like they're able to force a lot of turnovers by just applying consistent pressure. Now, by doing that, that generally means they, similar to what Purdue does, have to rotate kind of the weak side defenders into the lane. They're giving up kick out threes, but they also have done a pretty good job of making them very contested. So just a scrappy defense that's going to be very switchable and just kind of flying around everywhere.
Yeah, and as I was first looking through those numbers, I was like, man, they must really run everybody off the 3-point line and not give open looks. And then I rewatched that Michigan game and I'm like, no, no, like Michigan got looks.
Yeah.
They've actually given up a lot of 3-point attempts, but the percentage has been really, really low that teams have shot against them. And I kind of feel like they've gotten a little bit lucky, especially in that Michigan game of just catching some teams on bad shooting nights when they had good looks. So that's something I'm going to be interested to watch if this matchup happens. Does Purdue get good looks? And if they do, feel like Purdue's going to knock them down at a higher clip than what some of the teams they've faced so far have done. Offensively, and I guess we need to address the elephant in the room. This team has a name that's very, very familiar to Purdue fans, Miles Colvin. In terms of the transfers from last year's team at going to high major programs, Miles probably found the most success so far. Although shout out Brian Waddell, playing really good he's at Western Kentucky, right?
Now Bellarmine.
Bellarmine, that's right, Bellarmine. And then you've got Will Berg out at Wichita State that has been playing pretty well out there. So shout out to
Yeah.
both of those guys also. But Miles has had some highlight moments. We've seen him on Sports Center Top 10. We've seen him hit a half court shot, some big time dunks, some things that we know he can do. But before we get into the individual players, offensively, what is this team's identity? Another team that really lacks size down low. 6'9" again, the biggest player that they no 6'8" is the biggest player that they start on this team. What are they going to try to do offensively?
They want to get out and run first and foremost. They want to run. They want to push the ball. They want to get out in transition. Use their athleticism. Well, Nate Calamise is kind of the lead point guard for them, and has the ability to really just stir the drink for everybody and set everybody up. Can still create his own shot, and especially as a tough shot maker from three. When they do get into the half court, it's a lot of like kind of side to side movement where they'll flow into handoffs, and just try to get some sort of creation that way. Lots of handoffs, lots of like staggered pin downs on the weak side, similar to what like Kentucky did in the exhibition. When they do create, like do get downhill, it's generally because there's some sort of like off ball movements that also opens up driving gaps for them. Um, do have to be aware of some of their bigs being able to keep the ball on handoffs where they fake the handoff and just try to turn the corner and get downhill. But push and transition is option 1, 2, and 3 kind of for them. And then once they get into the half court, it's handoff, side to side movement, and just trying to find different attacks that way.
Right. And as you mentioned, the point guard, Nate Calmes, coming in on the season, averaging 9.5 points, is shooting 47% from three on the season, but has not been super efficient finishing at the rim or in his mid range. His overall field goal percentage is only about 38%. Missed a lot of bunnies, I thought, in that Michigan game. I thought he had some looks right at the rim and 2 or 3 out, and kind of that little midi that just missed. But certainly a lightning rod. Couple of the other names from offensive outputs. Juke Harris actually comes in leading this team in scoring at 21.8 points per game and 7 rebounds. He's a 6'7", 200-pound guy that kind of plays the 3 spot for this team. High volume shooter from 3, coming in averaging 35% on the year. And then Trayvon Spillers, another 6'7", 205. They've got a bunch of guys that are all kind of the same size when we get to their wings and bigs, I guess. 16.3 points, 6.5 rebounds. A game, kind of an undersized post that can get to the rim, doesn't really want to shoot from outside too much. I guess to me, those are the 2 guys besides Nate that kind of, drive this team offensively. And then you've got Makai Mason, career's 37% 3-point field goal shooter who hasn't necessarily shot it great this year. And then Omaha Baloo, a lanky, undersized big at 6'8", 225, but not really a big offensive output guy from a scoring standpoint. Kind of a tall, lanky, undersized big.
Yeah, so Calmes, we hit on. He's quick guard, get downhill, shifty. Basically he's shooting well from 3 this year and terrible from 2, and that's the opposite of what he's done for the rest of his career. Juke Harris, he's like he is just an athletic dude that he's going to get downhill. He is somebody that has been very, very good for them early in the season. He seems like he's going to be taking that sophomore jump. He is somebody that he has to be stopped in transition. A lot of his looks are coming in transition. I'm going to do the quick math. He has 12 makes or 14 makes in transition and like 15 makes in the half court so far. So like stop him in transition and make him be more of a half court guy. Um, but 6'7" athleticism. I am very curious to see who Purdue puts on him if they do match up. Maybe that is like that probably can't be CJ. CJ probably has to take Calmise, so then that probably means Braden on Juke, and that's just an interesting matchup there. Makai Mason, transferred from Washington, shooter, hasn't shot it great, but he's a good career 3-point shooter. Shot really well at Washington last season, so he can knock him down. Spillers, undersized forward, who's going to be. He's somebody that works a lot in the handoffs, like keep at the top of the key, working the ball back and forth. He's somebody that can keep and get downhill, not a shooter really at all, which sets up well for TKR being able to guard him. And then Omaha Billu, like you said, lanky center, wants to shoot more than kind of bang down low. Hasn't really shot the ball well at all this season. Hasn't been a super big rim protector, and or even rebounder in general. So if he's on Clough, if Purdue plays them, like that feels like a matchup that Clough just has to dominate.
Yeah. Um, as we turned, I realized I kind of skipped over what Purdue could do defensively against them and exploit from their offensive game. But let's go ahead and highlight their bench real quick, and then we'll get into that. So, I mean, Miles Colvin, I think, seems like obviously the biggest contributor off of the bench. He's coming in shooting 33% from. I'm sorry, comes in shooting 32% from three on the year on just about 5 attempts. Don't really need to say a lot about Miles. Like Purdue fans know who Miles is. He can get really hot from outside and hit a bunch of threes in quick succession. If he gets going, high riser when he's out in transition. The fact that Wake Forest wants to get out and run kind of fits to his style from that standpoint. Obviously, not a guy that's going to really try to attack you off the dribble, more of a straight line driver. In that game, they kind of gave it to Miles late, and in my mind, asked Miles to do something that he's not comfortable doing, which led to a not great outcome at the end of that game. But before that, he had played really well in that Michigan game. And then the other two guys, Sebastian Akins and Cooper Schweiger, to me are really the other two that contribute off the bench, if you want to kind of highlight.
Yeah, well, don't have much more to add on Colvin. He's been doing his thing over at Wake Forest. Akins, he's kind of the backup point guard, 6'2", more facilitating than scoring. Can shoot from three, but is a little bit reluctant to. Wants to get downhill more, get downhill, collapse defense, kick out from there. And then Cooper Schweiger is kind of their backup center. He's 6'10", 235, probably their best like just rim protector. Can be a very good rebounder. Isn't really gonna can maybe stretch the floor a bit, but isn't necessarily his strong suit. Wants to be more of an interior scorer, but also hasn't really had super high usage so far.
Yeah. So as we turn the table to what Purdue, let's say offensively first, should be able to do against this team, one of the other things that jumped out to me, and especially in that game against Michigan, is this team, because they want to play that high pressure style and really put a lot of pressure on ball, be overly aggressive. Sometimes they get out of position, which can lead to open shots. But the thing that jumped out to me most was they foul a lot. They foul a lot. And the backup Schweiger, right? He comes in. I think he picked up 2 fouls in literally like 3 minutes against Michigan's bigs. Immediately sat down. They bring the starting big back out. He picks up a foul. Schweiger has to come back out, pick us up his third foul right away after that. Purdue ought to be able to get to the free throw line a bunch in this game, especially with their bigs. But I think if they match that aggression from the guard spots too, they should be able to draw contact, put the onus on the officials to call those fouls and get them on the line. I guess other than that, I mean, there's a lot more, but other than that, how do you see this game offensively? Yeah.
Any time that a team plays hedge, to me, it's more of a TKR short roll because that's just the quickest way to get the numbers advantage. If you can get him there, it's 4-on-3. Braden's also become so good against it that like he can if he can turn that corner, it's just kind of wraps for the defense. You're just hoping that Purdue misses at that point. Um, but it right, obviously the offense starts with those two. But with how Wake Forest defends, this is a game where Lawyer, CJ, Jakari, Meyer, like those are the guys that need to be able to knock down shots, kickouts, or Meyer and Jakari, especially maybe being able to attack some closeouts, get to the rim a little bit, but got to be able to knock down some threes. Like that's been the biggest thing that's kind of kept Wake Forest afloat is just like not let like forcing teams to take threes and then teams just aren't making them. So those I know it's just kind of generic, but like that feels like the way to go. You can work in some TKR and Clough post ups, probably just knowing that they're going to double and pass out of them from there. But it is one that as long as they handle the pressure, like they should get pretty good looks.
Yeah, one thing I could really see in this game, and honestly against Texas Tech too, and we've seen it a little bit more since TK's been, well, we've only seen it since TK's been back because we didn't have a big to do big to big, high to low action before TK came back. But I could really see that being a point of emphasis in either one of those two games, just because both of these lineups are so small. It feels like if whoever's guarding TK has to come out to the free throw line or higher to guard him, there's going to be opportunities to just, especially Jacobson, just kind of lob it up to him and let him go get it. But also Clough as well. So defensively, I guess, well, we'll get to keys in just a second. Defensively, anything stand out about what Purdue really needs to do? I mean, to me, their best defense is just not turning the ball over against this team.
Yeah, I think it's similar to the Bama game plan of just like slow the game down, make them walk or Purdue walk it up and make Wake Forest have to play more in the half court setting. If you can eliminate their transition, that's where right you have a much better chance of being able to generate looks. Yeah, in transition right now, Wake Forest is averaging 1.15 points per possession, and the half court it's 0.89. So definitely a big drop off from transition to half court. And then once they are in the half court, really just trying to stay attached to some of the guards, making life more difficult, and just right, not giving up crazy easy looks. I assume Purdue will try to make Wake Forest a jump shooting team, and Wake Forest has a couple guys that can maybe make them pay, but this feels like a team that wants to get downhill a little bit more. So being able just to control the penetration and make Wake Forest have to work, and also
Yeah.
rebound the ball because every game rebound the ball. Wake Forest,
Rebound
they're
the ball.
top 16 offensive rebounding percentage.
Yeah. Which is odd to be with their size.
Yeah,
But they
I
seem
think
just
it's
really active and athletic getting to the ball.
I think it's also. I mean, they've played Michigan and then they've played basically three 300 level Kempom teams, so I do think that probably helps inflate it a little bit.
Yeah, that kind of rolls into my key to the game in terms of just don't turn the ball over against this team because I don't think there's any way that Wake Forest can beat Purdue if this is a half court game. So that's my real simple key in this one. Just don't turn it over.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good one. I'll go with this. I'll take yours pretty much from the Texas Tech part of just like the bigs have to be really good if this game does happen. That's where they have the immediate advantage between TKR, Clough, Jacobson. Those three have to dominate with their size and TKR with with the skill and dominate the glass, etc. Be the better front court because they are.
I guess. And one thing we did mention in the show with Casey is just adjusting to the sight lines and background of playing in a ballroom. Also,
Yeah.
the Boiler Suits guys posted a picture of the setup. Like they got a sneak peek as they were setting it up. It is small. Like I know it's small, but like from their angle where they were able to like pan out on it and get it all in there, that is a small venue. We know teams have struggled sometimes in those types of venues just adjusting, but adjusting to that, don't think it'll be an issue. I think it works for Purdue either way because I feel like in every single one of these matchups they're going to have down there, they should have the advantage down low. So if shots aren't falling from outside, they still should be able to make hay down there. Before we round out, we didn't do predictions for either of the games, but prediction on the tournament itself. Joe, does Purdue win, and what is the closest game they have by points if they do win?
I do think they win, and it would be the Texas Tech game. I think that would be a single digit game, maybe like a 7 point win or 4 point win, somewhere in that kind of range would be my guess.
I'm going they win, and the closest game is 10.
Okay,
I think they win against any of these three teams by double digits.
there you go.
All right.
And
I will see you all in the Bahamas. Well, I won't see you all in the Bahamas, but I will be coming to you from the Bahamas the next time that any of you see me. Joe, take us home.
yep. So yeah, Purdue down in the Bahamas. They play Memphis on Thursday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, CBS Sports Network. If they win, they will be playing at 9:30 on Friday. And if they lose, they will be playing at 7 o'clock, and that'll be against either Texas Tech or Wake Forest. That will also be on CBS Sports Network. So a good little Thursday Friday matchup. Kind of leading into Feast Week, one of the best weeks in college basketball. We will be live immediately after the game. Braggs and I will be. Kraig will, I presume, be doing post-game stuff and then potentially hop on later if he's able to. So follow him on Twitter at Kraig Bowers34 and follow us on Twitter at Boilers and Stands to get exclusive coverage that from the Bahamas themselves. Craig's going to do a great job. He always does a great job at these. So definitely go check those out. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on bell notifications so that way you get notified when we go live following the games. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see you after Purdue plays Memphis on Thursday.